Hey everyone, I'm Nathan, and today we're going to be drawing every Drawfee vampire, a room full of them. This is going to be a little bit of a love letter to Julia and all of her stoic men in 3/4 view looking over their shoulder. What a sight to behold. So stay tuned if you want to see 2 vampire love triangles and a spicy reimagining of your favorite childhood vamp. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So I start out by sketching a simple gothic room with a mirror because in every room full of vampires, there's always just one normal guy to contrast from all the other vampires. So I'm sketching in the room full of vampires that appeared in a Beans, where all of the Drawfee hosts kind of took turns making very personalized, individualistic vampires, in contrast to Julia's initial drawing. Julia utilized a lot of silhouettes of long vampire capes with high collars in order to get the aesthetic of the room full of vampires. This one was really fun, having a lot of personalities to play with. You'll also notice 2 of these vampires are the funny vampires that appeared in a Drawfee stream, and stay tuned for a little bit of a joke. It's gonna be the last thing that I add to this video. Also, the guy in the suit just came from his 9 to 5. So glad that he can be here for the devouring of mortal flesh. And from the same video, I'm now doing the vampire teens. I ended up really loving how these guys came out. They're so cute. They were very much inspired by Digimon, at least the way that I did their eyes. They're the first love triangle. So it's there's the vampire girl teen and the vampire boy teen, and then the vampire in the background has an unrequited crush on the girl who's interested in this generic Wonder Bread vampire that's holding this vampire baby. I don't know why they have this vampire baby. It could be one of their younger siblings, or maybe they just found it and they're like, well, shoot, it's an eternal baby. I guess we have to take care of it, or find a place for it to live. I don't know. I just imagine these teens getting into all kinds of mischief. Also, this video was voted by my Patreon. If you join at the $15 tier, you can vote for what video you want to see at the end of the month. And if you join at the $4 tier, you can have your name in the end credits, and you can submit requests for additional background characters in each of my pieces. And one of my patrons requested the Count from Sesame Street. So I googled Count from Sesame Street, but hot. The spicy art that has been manifested of this childhood character is unparalleled. So I wanted to pay homage to that here by making him very Dilfy. Yeah, suck your blood. Count to 3. And in the center, we have 2 Manananggals on either side of the just random guy. And here I'm going to make a small segue to talk about Carmilla. You may think that Dracula, which came out in 1897, was the first real gothic novel about vampires, and you would be wrong. In 1872, the book Carmilla came out, written by Irish author Sheridan Le Fanu. I don't know if I said that right, but it's a work of vampire fiction that is hella gay and is about this lesbian vampire named Carmilla and her human companion Laura. Great read, and it's really short, so you can read it in a day. I highly recommend. But because of that, I've decided to name the generic guy in the middle of the room Laura, and she's a woman because lesbians. Back to our content. I also draw Lasclo from What We Do in the Shadows and Kaname from Vampire Night, who are both also Patreon requests. Sign up now. I'm a really small channel and I really want to be able to keep making videos, so any penny helps. Thank you. And last but not least, I draw Bakeneko, the Vampire Cat. And now sadly, I have to take a moment to mourn the loss of a very special vampire doggo. So this vampire dog was from the room full of vampires Beans, and sadly, he doesn't make it to the finished piece. I don't know at what stage I end up forgetting about him, but I end up drawing everyone's legs and a bunch of capes, and unfortunately, I forgot about drawing him, but he looks really cute. That's just the way videos go sometimes. You forget elements, you exaggerate others. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. And now we're about to get into what the heck? Oh, I forgot. Oh my god. So while I was working on this, I was watching a bunch of Drawfee streams, and Julia and Karina and everyone was trying to draw Scooby Doo from memory. And so I was like, what? Is it that hard? So this is my Scooby Doo from memory. Why, there's a random Scooby. Anyway, on to our first vampire. Manananggalmon is from a Drawfee stream, and she was done by Karina. I love this design. I love how cute she is, and her giant, weird, gross, undead arms. She was in a really interesting pose because she's kind of throwing herself onto Laura's arm. So there was a lot of juggling center of gravity and, just where everyone was. I guess I should also explain the missing torso. So if you don't know, a Manananggal is a vampire from Filipino folklore who's an undead woman who is separated from her legs. And so she flies around on bat wings as just her torso, and then her legs are in a different area. And surprisingly, there are 3 Manananggals in this piece, 2 drawn by Julia, and this is the one drawn by Karina. You also see I did this initial outfit for Laura, but the pose was too stiff, so I end up kind of reimagining it a little bit, just so there's a little more contrapposto in the stance. I loved adding ruffles to the skirt. Oh my gosh, it's my favorite thing is adding bells and whistles on outfits. I think it's so fun. I also gave her very tiny wings, which isn't exactly true to the initial drawing, but I didn't want to cover too much of the count or the kiddos, so I made the wings a little tiny. Over here we have Julia's first Manananggal, who is very creepy. I gave her a very simple kind of monotone outfit, and she has this really long tongue that she uses for like eating babies, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. Hate that, but here it's more of a fun, you know, recreational context, we'll say. And now we're on to inking the count. I made him Lady Demoniscatru, the giant vampire lady from Resident Evil Village. Yeah, I made him that size because, you know, I wanted a big vampire. No other reason, not because I have a type. Anyway, I love the 90s pattern I did on the inside of his cape, and I like the way he came out. He's very cute. Vampire teens. I fell in love with these teens, like I said before. I imagine they're like early teens, like 13 through 15 range. They've all just recently become vampires, and they're like learning how their vampire powers work and understanding the world of the undead and what their place is in it. And they just discovered this undead vampire baby. I imagine they have lots of little adventures they go on as a group. The goth kid in the back is jealous of the Wonder Bread protagonist. We love to see it. His nose ring and his design is tweaked a little bit because I also found this image from, I don't know where, I assume it was from a Drawfee stream, of some vampire named Clove. So I kind of combined them both here and was like, this is Clove, the goth boy vampire who has a nose piercing. There were a lot of vampires inside this drawing, so I tried to combine and simplify whenever I could. I also draw the vampire pumpkin. I love the sketchy, raw kind of like line work I do for both him and these other pumpkins on the fireplace. It was just really fun and relaxed way of drawing, and I want to be a little messier, a little looser sometimes. I feel like I stress out so often about having clean line work, and I don't need to do that, but I end up doing it for the rest of the video, so we live and learn. I also draw a small porcelain vampire cow, which was drawn in a Drawfee screen, and I was like, I'm not gonna have a full-size cow in the middle of my gala. That would be too ridiculous, because these other things definitely aren't ridiculous. So I just made him small and like made of porcelain, like as a decoration by the candelabra. Also in this reflection, I don't include the candles, so I guess those are vampire candles. Wow, crazy. I mean, if there's a vampire pumpkin, you have vampire candles. If you want to see me do another really intense, narratively important mirror, check out my A Court of Fae and Flowers video where I do a similar piece that's set in like a Regency era drawing room. Yeah, fun times. Ooh, speaking of combining characters, this was initially just going to be a normal bat, but one of my patrons slipped in at the very last moment and was like, oh, here are my suggestions for a vampire you can draw. And one of them was Marceline, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love Marceline. I'm definitely gonna do Marceline. But Julia's first Manananggal and the vampire teen girl both have a lot of Marceline energy going on, so I drew her in her cute little bat form. And now I'm fine-tuning the funny vampire and Julia's second Manananggal, who are the very front figures that are sort of bookending the composition right now. You'll have to wait a little longer for that joke. Why are these vampires so funny? Oh, just wait. I'm sure the payoff will be worth it and not a groan. It's not a very good joke. Anyway, I also draw Lasclo's from What We Do in the Shadows, which Nathan Yaffe also drew during like a portrait. I forget which video that was from. So this is like killing 2 birds with 1 stone with this request. But if I will say, if my patron didn't request it, I probably wouldn't have counted that as the Drawfee original vampire. So shout out to you, Christopher. And then he's also standing across from Kaname, the vampire knight guy. I don't remember this anime super well, but I watched it when I was sick a long time ago, and I just remember it being so like scandalous and like inappropriate. I was like, oh my gosh. She just asked this vampire to use her as like a walking blood bank. Like, oh my gosh, scandalous. Anyway, yeah, I don't think I ever finished it. And I also, that might have been a different character. I should revisit anime more often. The 3 vampires you see to the back are sort of rounding out this room full of vampires. The one in the center is one of the dynamic duos between the funny vampires. You know, in any good comic duo, you need to have your straight-laced guy and then your like screwball. So you have someone to set up the jokes and then someone to do the punchline and the payoff. And so this guy is just staring at the dude in the front like, I know what your deal is, and I am not amused. It just makes it funnier. And these 2 other vampires are gay, and they're definitely gossiping. When they were depicted in that Beans, they were sort of having a tiff, like a little bit of a fight. And so I wanted to like have the fancy vampire with the long hair be like telling business vampire, oh my gosh, like you'll never hear what I just heard, this piece of gossip. And then business vampire's just like, what? And so now I'm doing the Vampire Cat. I love drawing him because it was like so much Cheshire Cat vibes. I love Alice in Wonderland. So this was very satisfying for me to draw. And then also, you can see that the lost dog is gone. Poor vampire dog. Anyway, now I'm doing the backgrounds. Just adding some wallpaper and gold trimmings and all that jazz. I do these shadows. I love the green color that I chose for it. And I do a lot of tweaking with the lighting just to get everything correct. Then one of the last things I do is I actually do the vampires that Julia did in the Redrawing Classical Painting episode. And I literally work from Julia's initial sketch because I wanted to like have those exact poses. And it was so small in the background, I felt like it was transforming the art to a degree high enough to justify doing that. You know, it's just like a little wink, a little nod, a little Easter egg. Laura, you're in danger, girl. Do you think Laura sees them all as vampires? Or do you think she sees them all as human? Or do you think she's like, yeah, these are vampires, but vampires are hot, bite my neck? Like, what's going through her mind? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, this is it. It's time for the joke. Are you ready? You've heard of assless chaps, but what about assless vamps? So bad. And this is the finished illustration. Besides losing one vampire dog, I do genuinely like how it came out. I love the atmosphere and the shadows. It's so moody, and it does feel a lot like Julia's pieces and her rendering style, which I was kind of going for in the inspiration and with this whole video. So let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this video and your favorite Drawfee vampire. And if you really want to support the channel, like, subscribe. That stuff really does make a difference, y'all. You would not believe the algorithm loves it. And follow me on Patreon if you want your names in the credits, or you want me to draw your weird obscure things in the background of my images. You might get a buff vampire out of it. Ho ho ho. So with all that being said, time to wrap things up with the end credits. Special thanks to Blue Uwu, Christopher, MOE, Game of Catan on IG, Gay Jairus, Melon, Prance, SL Blue, Smalls the Sax Jammer, Thumper Daytime, Partholinor, Tuesdays Anyways, and Tuppets Pies. My name is Nathan. I upload every Wednesday and Saturday, and I'll see you soon. Bye!